guys, welcome back to Jude's Tiny House Truck Travels. Today's episode is going to be all about the truck and the build process and how what it was like getting it through the certification process and things like that. So I'm hoping this will inspire some people to maybe do the same thing, or it might put you off completely. Before we get into the good stuff, just want to remind you that if you like the channel, please make sure you subscribe and turn on your notifications. Thank you. The whole idea of building a tiny house on the back of a truck came to me about between 2.5 to 3 years ago. I was living on the road in camper vans and I was watching all those really cool videos of tiny houses and thought, wow, that'd be really cool to build one of those. So I started looking for some land to put it on, but then somewhere along the way my head said, no, you're not ready to give up the road yet, Jude. So the idea of putting it on a truck came up. Then it became a process of finding a builder, finding a truck, getting all the bits and pieces done. I thought I would find the builder first because then I would know how big a truck I needed to get. So I found Francois and his team at the workshop in Napier and got him on board. While I was waiting for my time slot to get the tiny house built, I did a lot of research into designs and the things that were going to go into the tiny home. And I said to Francois, I don't want any camper van-y stuff in there. You know, I don't want any specialised stuff that you can only go to a camper van store to get it fixed. So I've just got a normal fridge, normal stove. They were just bought it in Old Lemming. I imported my scissor steps from the States because I just couldn't find anything here, and the cost of getting them made would have been horrendous, and they were only about $700. They're called Brophy scissor steps if anybody's looking for them. I've had quite a few people talk about those, my cool scissor steps. Once we had agreed on the house, it was then a case of I had about a 9-month wait before it was my turn for the build because he has a big waiting list. So I went looking for a truck, couldn't find them. They either weren't long enough or they were too old, they'd done too many kilometres. There was just hardly anything out there in the market in New Zealand for second-hand, long wheelbase trucks that weren't huge, you know, all of that sort of thing. I went to the dealer, I'd done a bit of research online. I said, I think this is the model I need. So he had a look and he'd go, yep, that's the model you need. So I picked out an Isuzu NPR 450L. So it was the smallest truck I could get that would take the length of the tiny house, which was 6.2 or 6.4. I'm never quite sure about that one. Anyway, he duly ordered the truck, and I turned up to have my picture taken with this truck, and big smiles. Here's a picture of the truck. And then I mentioned to him, does it matter that says NQ on the side of the truck there rather than NP? And he goes, oh shit, I've ordered the wrong truck. So bearing in mind that this was all done, a couple of months before we were ready to start the build, and I had a time slot with Francois about when we were going to start the build, he gets the right truck. So that was 2 weeks taken up, and then we get the truck there, and in the meantime the engineers and Francois had been talking in the background about the frame that the house was going to sit on, because it was just a cabin chassis that I bought, so we needed something for the tiny house to actually bolt onto. So the engineering firm that was part of the truck firm had come up with a design. They'd talked to Francois and they'd figured it all out. So when the right truck arrived and we'd organised all the the right parameters and things like that, I tried to get a timeline out of the truck company, because I said we've only got, they need to start the build on this particular day. Will it be ready in time? And he just would not give me a time frame in any way, shape or form. That was the first hiccup that we came across. I gave him the date and he just kept saying, oh yeah, we'll see what we can do. Well, he was 4 weeks late. So poor Francois, I kept him up to date and said, it's coming, but I don't know when. So basically what happened was Francois and his team, they built everything that they could. They did, so all the windows and doors and things like that are all made by hand by Francois and his team. So they made all the doors and windows. They did all the carpet, the inside carpentry that they possibly could, and that took up a month of the build before the truck finally arrived. So the truck gets there, and Francois and his team just start putting it all together. The frame, the metal frame was there. They started putting it all together, and it just, honestly, it went so quick. It was boom, boom, boom. His houses take between 8 to 10 weeks, and that was the time frame for this one as well. So we'd had 4 weeks already, so another 6 weeks, and it was all finished. So I had to organise somebody to come and do the solar. I bought all my solar stuff from a guy in Hastings, and then he recommended somebody to install it all for me. So I got them to liaise with Francois so that they were all there at the right time. The solar got put into one of the hatches in the floor, and then the truck was finished. So the truck company came and picked it up and took it in to get certified. Now, I'd had an issue with the fireplace installer, not the guy that built the fireplace. He's a real cool guy. The guy that actually installed the fireplace, he'd been told you need to keep that chimney as low as possible because it needs to be under 4.2 meters high, the whole thing, from the road to the top of the truck. 4.2. The chimney was about 1.5 meters high, and I said, there's no way. Why are you guys even taking it in to get certified? Because it's not going to pass. So anyway, I was working out of town and coming back every weekend on a Friday to talk about what was going on. So I get a call on Friday morning saying, oh, we need a bit of a meeting about the truck. So I make them at the truck company, because that was where it was sitting at the time. They're taking it in. The chimney was too high. Well, I could have told them that. The little things like the door handle. So you're only allowed, there's only a certain width you're allowed on the road, and we were right at the maximum width. And the door handle on the outside of the French doors was too big, too wide. So they had to take that handle off and put a sort of a thing that clicks around, which I hate. But never mind. But the biggest, they didn't like the mud guards we put on, so I ended up having to buy proper mud guards. That was just another cost, blah blah blah. And then the big thing though was that the lovely big back window, which is such a feature in this house, was 20 millimeters longer than it should be. So we'd gone right to the very length of the truck that we possibly could, following all the rules. But what had happened was, in between Francois and the engineer, somewhere somebody had got a little bit mixed up with whether it was NPR or an NQ. And because I think the truck that Francois went to see was actually the NQ, but it was an NPR. So he was going on the NQ measurements, so he thought he had lots more room to play with, which of course he didn't. So then a big discussion ensued, how are we going to fix this, because it was a big deal. So what they did was they unbolted the whole house and the frame off the chassis and moved it forward to the next bolt hole, basically, and then bolted it all back on. So all it meant was I lost the engine cover that normally sits there, because it was in the way when they pulled the chassis forward. I just had said to them, I don't care how you fix this. It's not my mistake. It's not my problem. I'm not paying for it. But of course, the truck company tried to charge me for it. So all of this took time, but then it had to get certified by an engineer. And that took another probably, so all of this took about another 2 weeks. The truck was ready, but I wasn't ready. So all of that took another a couple of weeks to find an engineer, because the truck company hadn't booked an engineer in to certify that all the stuff that had been done was fine. So once they'd done that, then they could go in and get it certified. So it's certified with the Road Transport Authority as a motorhome. And I'll go into a few of the specifications now. When the truck got certified, it was certified with the house on the back. So the house is not a load, it's part of the truck. Its tier weight is 6,360 kgs. So that's what they call the unloaded weight of the truck. The truck is allowed to carry up to 7,500 kilos, and I'm very close to that, if not over it. So between 6,360 and 7,500, that didn't give me a heck of a lot to play with, because we still had to put all the self-containment stuff and gas bottles and things like that underneath. So that was yet another tradesman. So once the house was road legal, I took it to Wanganui, because I had another friend over there who did all the self-containment stuff for me. So he built my gas lockers. He did all the water tanks. He got all the plumbing hooked up. He got everything basically working. So that was another couple of months for that to happen. Because there was a lot of figuring out, where to put everything so the weight distribution was good, and fiddly bits underneath the floor trying to get pipes to hook up, and the guy that did that was a marvel. He was really worried about the fact it was taking so long, and I just said, it's going to take as long as it takes, don't worry about it. I want it done properly, so let's do it properly. So I went to pick it up just before Christmas, and that would have been 2019. So I picked it up and brought it back. I think it was on the 20th of December, and then I took everything out of the van that I've been living in and put it all into the tiny house, parked them up next to each other, and just did it that way. And then I hit the road. I know, straight away. I was off to Wellington for Christmas. Somewhere along the line, when they had been chopping the chimney down, they'd forgotten to put a little bit back in, and I ended up with a great big hole in the top of it. So I took it over to the guy that had made the fireplace and got him to have a look at it for me, and he put another he chopped it down a little bit further, put the right bits inside it, and put a nice cap on it, the one that I wanted in the first place. So that was all sorted, and I hit the road for 2 or 3 months, and then I realized that I needed some more storage space outside. So I put a call up on a Facebook group I belong to for other people living on the road, and found a young guy who was an auto electrician and a welder and an engineer. He was pretty big, he could do anything, this guy. And I met him in Taupo, and we built a couple of lockers. So one's a drawer where I can put all my a few bits and pieces in, hoses and things like that, and the other one was a wood locker. Well, actually it wasn't supposed to be a wood locker, it was actually supposed to be a locker to put my fold up electric bike in, but it was never it would only just fit in. It was so hard to get in. I didn't have the muscles to get it in there. While I was in Taupo getting the lockers made up, I was having a bit of problem with not having quite enough energy to run my fridge. So this was in the middle of winter, we were talking. It had been a grey day for about 3 or 4 days, and I was just running out of battery power, and I was having to turn the fridge off at night. And between Raoul, my fireplace guy, and Dylan, the guy that was building the lockers, we decided that it wasn't more batteries I needed, it was another solar panel, because at the time I only had 500 watts of solar on there. So bought another panel, put that on there, and I've had no problems ever since. So the whole house is on runs on 240 volts. If you want to know more about that system, go and have a look at the video about the off-grid system, and it will tell you all about the gas bottles, the water stuff underneath, the solar system, things like that. So since I've had that done, there hasn't been much more, big things, except for the bike rack that I got built to put on the front, because lugging my bike up and down those stairs, was not the best way of doing things. It made a mess of my floor, the bike, and the amount of times I whacked that beautiful cedar door and made dents in it. And anyway, just got a bike rack made up for that. Oh, and the other thing I need to still sort out is the cameras. I've got one backing camera at the back, which is on all the time when I'm traveling, so I can see who's behind me. But I want cameras on the corners, so I can, because I can't see those corners up the top or down the bottom. I've got a vague idea where they are, but if I'm unsure, I just have to get out and go and have a look. So we're doing that. We're doing that shortly. Just waiting for some cables to arrive. So that's the story of the truck build. There's some things I haven't gone into a lot of detail about because I just don't have the knowledge. The tiny house itself, things like it's got wool insulation in it, but I don't know the brand or a lot of the technical stuff, because I left that up to the person that knew what they were doing. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. You can either private message me, or you can put a comment on here, because I read them all and I answer them all, and I will try and help you to the best of my ability. And really, I just hope this either inspires you to have a go at this sort of build yourself, find the people that can help you if you can't do it yourself, and if you don't, you don't have to do it the same way I did it, but you might be able to pick up a few ideas from it. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, please make sure to share with all your friends and subscribe to the channel, because there'll be more up soon.